All right, just to recap, so far what we've done is we used Ortho Engine to collect tie points, ingest all of our images, and produce orthos. Those orthos are not color balanced. They don't have any cut lines at the moment. We're trying to get to an ortho mosaic at the end. We could do that within Ortho Engine, but that doesn't allow us to create an XML file that we can use with the mosaic editing tool to interactively edit the mosaic with multiple people. So we went into Python. We wrote a little script based on the help, and we were able to create an XML file that we can use with the project. So if I go to that folder right now, I go to the Mosaic folder. If you recall, this is what we were able to create, this XML file. And also what we have here are the cut lines, and we have the Mosaic preview. So all of this information will load automatically into the Mosaic editing tool. So let's load that up. So here's the Mosaic tool. And I could just simply drag and drop the XML file. The nice thing about the Mosaic tool is, again, you can have multiple people working on the project at the same time. So I can select only a couple of images and work on those. And you can limit how many images people are opening at the same time. So I'll just go ahead and open all the images, and I'm going to be working on all of them. Okay, so you can see the overall project here. Our mask that we selected is shown in sort of the orange. This is the water that was excluded for the color balancing, and then all of the buildings were excluded for cut line generation. So you can see the cut lines avoided the buildings pretty much everywhere, and that's a good thing. So we'll turn the global mask off. And we'll also turn off the cut line. So this is a nice thing that you can do is you can actually turn off the cut lines and just have a look at your mosaic. So you can see right now that it's not looking maybe as good as it could. So the first thing that we do when we edit a mosaic is to check the cut lines. So let me turn those on. And you can see that some of the cut lines could be easily fixed here. So let me zoom into this location. And you can see I've got some artifacts here. I've got a cut line that doesn't quite go where I'd like it to go. So I'll select the image, which is this one. I'll pick the cut line, and then I'll use the reshape tool. And you can see that it's snapping here. So let me just go underneath here. And you can see that right away I was able to eliminate that. So just by clicking away from that, I've gotten rid of that problem. So let's see if there's any other problems that are pretty obvious that I can fix. I think down here, even though we used building outlines, somehow we went through a few buildings. So for example here, so I can pick that cut line, and I'll use my reshape tool, and I'll just try to avoid going in across that building. So you could follow through the cut lines and make sure that there's no problems like that throughout the mosaic. But it looks pretty good. So that's kind of step number one, is to edit your cut line. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll save it. Once again, what it's doing is it's saving all of the information relating to the cut lines and the color balancing in XML format to be used in the final mosaic. So for color balancing, a simple way to work, and this is something that you can repeat with every project, is to work in 3 steps. First step is to do a global color balancing on the entire mosaic to make sure that overall your colors are good, your brightness is good, your contrast is good. So that's kind of step number 1. Then you can drill down and individually correct images. So we could do scene-based color balancing. And then once we're happy with the overall scene-by-scene color balancing, we can dive into the actual edge dodging point and the floating dodging point to do finer corrections. Okay, now in terms of color balancing, what is a nice workflow is to turn off the cut lines, number 1, and examine your mosaic preview and determine whether overall it looks good. So the brightest areas are not too bright and the darkest areas are not missing detail. So if I zoom into maybe this area, that looks pretty good. So I'll zoom back out again. So what I can do first is adjust the brightness of the mosaic. So you can see here what it's doing is it's adjusting the entire mosaic. So now I'm getting way too bright. So if I don't like that, I can reset it. So maybe I want a little bit of contrast, a little bit of brightness, and that's pretty good. So that's your starting point, is to make sure that overall the color balancing for the entire mosaic is roughly set up correctly. So the second part is to use the image-based color adjustment. So we'll use our image selection tool. We'll pick an image. This one's essentially, it's a little bit too bright. You can see here there's more contrast, and it's just not looking as nice as the one next to it. So what I'll do is, so I've got that image selected right now. I'll just make sure I've got it selected again. And these are the global controls for that particular image. So let me bring the brightness down and see what that does. So you can see that that actually did the trick. So just by bringing the brightness down, these two images now are pretty much completely seamless. Of course, I've created some problems up in the water here, but that's okay. I can fix that with dodging points after. So this land is maybe a little bit over saturated, so let me bring the brightness down on the land. There, so there's a lot more detail now, and you can see that that kind of matches the land over here. So I'm pretty good with that. And there you go. So already that's looking pretty good. So let me save that. So I've done the global color balancing, I've done the scene color balancing. The next step is to do the dodging point color balancing. So once again, I'll use my image selection tool, and you can see that when I click this on and off, it turns the dodging points on and off. So automatically the bundle method creates these edge dodging points, which are along the cut lines. If I turn the cut lines back on, you can see that they're located along the cut lines. And these are automatically generated, so I can keep them, I can play with them, or I can drop my own points along the along those locations. So let's fix this problem here along the water. So we can see that we've got this really obvious problem along the water. So let's turn the cut line back on. The first thing we'll do is we'll use the current adjustment, and we're going to kind of create a barrier here where the land crosses the water. So we'll drop a point along that location there. So we'll make sure we select our image, that we've got use current adjustment, and we will drop a point right there to lock that in. And now we're going to switch this to auto match to both sides. So what we're going to do is we're trying to match this kind of darker water to this brighter area, and this will act as a barrier. So let me turn the cut line off so we can see the changes. So you can see right away that looks pretty good. That got rid of a lot of problems. I can keep going along here. It's looking pretty good already. And there you go. That's pretty much it. So I can keep going here. And pretty much seamless already. Okay, if I turn those off now, and I kind of move around, looks like I fixed all those problems. So that's a good start. So our water looks pretty good now. Again, I'll save my project. Now I'm going to turn my attention to this sort of problem area over here. I'll turn my dodging points back on again. And you can see that I've got some issues here. In this case, I've got this really, really bright area. So what I can do is I can actually create barriers along the land. So let me drop some points to block, as I did earlier, on each edge of this cut line. Okay, and now I'm going to try my matching to both sides again. Let's see how that works. So that's not bad. Now this point here was actually generated automatically, so what I can do is I can delete it. See what that does. There you go. So you can see that that got rid of most of the problems. Turn my cut line off here and see how that's looking. So maybe I'll add some more along here. Turn this off. Maybe drop a few more here. Oh, that had a bit too much of an impact, so we'll just hit undo. What's happening here is it's overexposing the land. So actually what I can do is I can drop some floating dodging points just anywhere I want. And these will actually just block. So they will eliminate the impact of the color balancing sort of spilling over into this location. So let me again go to my dodging point and drop some in here. So you can see that that now is doing a better job, and it's not affecting the statistics on the land. So that's not bad. It's looking pretty good. So I'll turn off my dodging points, sort of have a look around, and of course I can spend more time to edit this a little bit more, but that's the concept anyway in terms of editing the water. So you can see now that that water looks a lot more seamless. So that's essentially how you create your mosaic preview, edit your mosaic preview, and get to a point where you're happy with the overall color balancing. So let's save that now, because we're going to be using that to generate our final mosaic.